Hey guys, welcome to the Sua Sponte podcast. I'm here with Tony Mayne. Today we're going to talk about the Ranger for Life program, the initial premise behind it, and then where it is today now in 2024. So, Tony, go ahead if you want to just tell the guys a little bit about the Ranger for Life Foundation and where it's at now.
Hey, King, that's a great question because it's not really understood. And it is a little bit nebulous. It takes a little bit of explanation. And the reason is because a big part of the Ranger for Life program includes our alumni network, folks who've served in the 75th or support the 75th, giving back to active duty. And we know how our population, while on active duty, we want to protect them from outsiders, and we want to make sure that everyone is vetted. So, what is Ranger for Life? Ranger for Life is a program of the 75th Ranger Regiment, right? There's a signed document that presents what Ranger for Life is. And Ranger for Life encapsulates retention, right? Not recruitment, but retention, and then transition. And within that also falls the Phalanx program. And there's a great whiteboard video about what the Phalanx program is. So, on the day to day basis, what Regiment is trying to do with Phalanx is they're trying to educate, professionally develop, and keep their folks healthy for continued service. And that can include everything from making sure mind, body, and soul is in fit, making sure that they're on track with professional development and they're learning civilian skills that don't just help them when they get out, but help them in their career progression and help the force right now. An example of that would be a Ranger supply sergeant getting Lean Six Sigma green belt. All possible things using tuition assistance, and that's really Phalanx inside of this broad Ranger for Life program. When we look at what most alumni know of the Ranger for Life program, it's their involvement back into the regiment's transition structure. And the regiment's transition structure includes allowing the alumni through the honorary sergeant major of the regiment, Mike Hall, to have access to assist Rangers who request help. So we do not make all Rangers see Ranger for Life counselors that are at each one of our 3 geographic locations where the Rangers are at. There's a transition counselor at each. But our statistics show that we are on the uptick of the number of people that we help. And the only people we don't help are those who don't want it or aren't requesting it. And that's still a cycle we're trying to break, but super excited about our overall numbers. So a transition counselor at Hunter Army Airfield, transition counselor at Joint Base Lewis McChord, and then here at Fort Moore, Georgia. So what does it look like inside the Ranger for Life program? It looks like following the DOD's policy on transition, but getting ahead of it, right? If I'm a retiring service member, I can start by the DOD policy 24 months out. If I'm going to ETS, I can start 18 months out. And then it's up to me to complete my DOD requirements to become what's really transition trained. And at the end of the day in transition, I could get out of the military without a job, without using my benefits, without having a claim in with the VA, and all that can happen, and I can be signed off as trained to transition.
Yeah.
Because on your clearing document, you have to prove that you went through the TAPS program. Mm-hmm. Now, TAPS does the best they can with the authority that they have, but their authority is a training authority. And we know that Rangers, as they're preparing their Rangers for warfighting, the NCOs and officers, their job isn't to make sure that everybody has a job or educational opportunities. But we've created this Ranger for Life policy with the transition counselors where that becomes our job. And where we start is at those same markers, 24 months out or 18 months out. And our job is to get them prepared for transition before they start at the 12-month mark with the DOD. What we found, the whole key to the program at the end of the day, is we have gold. I get to work with gold every day. I mean, just okay. If I told you this is my clientele, make this very business-like, right? Turn it into data, right? So yeah. I got this, these guys this X guy comes in. Okay, one, he's been through an Army's assessment and selection program. He or she has already tried and been successful doing something more than what their organization requires. That's what I like to call good, right? They generally present well because they're physically fit. So the fact, as we know, in a boardroom, nobody cares how many push-ups you can do. But the idea that being physically fit and presenting well doesn't matter is just not true. It's just not true. It matters, right? They have a security clearance. That's powerful. That's powerful in the civilian world. It's powerful in the defense industry. That matters. And here's the fourth point. And this is the most powerful thing. And they all get this when they come in and talk to me here in Columbus, Georgia. They're doing the most important part of the entire process. They're asking for help. They're humbling themselves. So in that, they're going to be part of a community. And they will talk to other Ranger mentors who've gone through similar experiences, some that might have job opportunities, but those who will definitely open up their networks to them to show them that not only can they be successful, but to give them a roadmap to be successful. That is extremely, extremely powerful. I've only experienced with over 1,000 Rangers and over the decade of doing this, 3 Rangers who have left service without a job or without acceptance into the educational program that they were looking to go into. What that means is some people apply to Harvard, they don't get in. Sorry, not everybody can get into Harvard. But if they were looking to go and get an MBA, they'll get into a program. That's not a problem. Or that doesn't work out, they'll get a job. So 3 out of 1,000. 2 were hard heads. Win some, lose some, right? You can only do with what you're working with. And then 1 decided to take a gap year. And pretty soon I'm going to have my second in May that is taking a gap year. God bless him for doing it, right? His life, that kid is going to be more than okay with everything else that he has lined up. But that humbling yourself and asking for help and wanting to be a part of community, right? Remember the old days of leaving battalion? You used to hear like, hey, you leave the brown fence, don't turn around. No one's looking for you.
Yeah.
Well, now it's like, leave the brown fence because there's Rangers out there, do well, become a mentor to give back. It's amazing.
So how can guys, how do guys become a mentor? What do they got to do?
Great question. Okay, so first of all, for alumni, so this is 3 Rangers Foundation. This is their sole baby. So you can go to 3 Rangers Foundation. You got to type in the whole thing, then do .org, right? You can click the mentor tab. I think it's mentor tab, then or get involved, and under that, become a mentor. And then you fill out the application. I will tell you, every mentor and our agreement with the regiment, right? Our contract is we need to ensure the right people are talking to our transitioning Rangers, right? And we do have mentors who've gone through difficult circumstances, but they've recovered and are now thriving, right? So we have somebody for everybody. But if you go to that link, you'll fill out the request form. You have to show, I think, 2 folks that validate that you were in Ranger Regiment, and then you'll get a conversation with a member of 3 Rangers Foundation to validate what you put down to ensure that we should put you in front of a Ranger. And a Ranger who's in transitioning, what we will look at on their experiences, how we align those mentors. First, industry, right? Industry matters. Yeah, generally these folks, to keep them motivated, they're looking for a certain type of job. So if a Ranger comes in and says, I want to go into cloud computing, but I might want to be a teacher, and I'm thinking about being a firefighter. I'm like, googly moogly, man. As long as you come to me early, we've got time to kind of knock this down a little bit. Maybe you can do it all, right? But we can knock this down. But they'll get mentors in all of those things. And then we look at, well, where do you want to live? In fact, the biggest question and the biggest indicator of success and transition, the question we ask is, what's most important to you? Job, location, and money. And then we show them with the data why location is the most important, right? You can't want to live in Tampa, Florida and be a wildlife firefighter, right? In Montana, like that just, it doesn't work, right?
Yes.
You want to be a gunsmith with your buddy, which is fine, and move up to the lawn guy. I love it. I love it. He sells the business, and now you have nothing, right? So anyway, we look at that location as being a key marker for our guys. And then, do they need help with the resume? Do they have a resume? Right. The mentors will help with the resume. We have several dozen rangers who are in the human resources profession. And then we look at, are they interested in the Guard or Reserves? For a first time enlistee getting out, specifically with a family, to not consider the Guard or Reserves, to know the full options, generally comes from the fact that they remember basic training and what those people were like. Right. But remember, Abrams Charter, our whole goal was to make those people better. So to turn down those type of benefits as contingency plans usually is a little bit of ignorance is considered. And so we'll align mentors based on all those things. And it takes a little bit of time because Rangers are the same, but we're all unicorns too, right? When we get out, we're all looking to do different things. It takes a little bit of time, but the Rangers committed to contacting those mentors. So the results, doing this really consistently every year since 2019 have been fantastic.
Well, and I think that that's really a good thing is we talked before about guys are almost forced to have to go and see that. And I know like when I was in, the operational tempo was so high and you felt bad as that team leader or that squad leader position. I mean, I wasn't a squad leader, but in that team leader position of wanting to be there for your guys to help out and prepare. And because before I got out, 375 was about to deploy. So they sent me to be a rip tac while I was getting out. So I was going through the TAP program and doing all this, but I was just kind of checking the boxes in TAP. It wasn't, nobody really told me I had to do it or made time for it. And whenever that happens, it never really happens right. And so it sounds like Ranger for Life is making that transition where these are the things that have to happen now. It's not an optional, but it's good because guys need that time and they need to do things right. And they need to think about things, like you said, going in the Guard, going in reserve. If you have nothing else, having a good degree path in college, or even like you said, having a good check of, am I going to a place that actually has a job that's conducive to what I want to do?
Well, Ken, I want to take this opportunity to show you how it's all kind of like integrated too, right?
Yeah.
Because this isn't Ranger for Life transition in a silo. Ranger for Life is a program for retention, right? So understand that as retention. And then we do not deny that some people get out. So we've got to do great in retention. We've got to do great in transition. Everybody will leave the Ranger Regiment. It's a thing. It's like being a professional athlete. Like there's a lifespan. Even the RCO, he leaves. The RSM, they leave. It's a thing. Okay. So the integration of the program is important. So each battalion, as well as the regimental headquarters, has a phalanx NCO, generally a senior NCO who will continue to serve after that position. Like it could be grooming for a platoon sergeant or an ops sergeant major position. It is a very big deal in the battalions. So the requisite importance has been placed on it. We hear a lot of time about professionalizing the force. They're putting the right people in those positions. It is very impressive who the transition counselors have an opportunity to work to. Within that phalanx office, each battalion has an education counselor. Now, I do not know of any other brigade and below element that has an education counselor at each battalion. So we have one in the phalanx office at the RHQ, then at each battalion. Now, that education counselor's job is not transition. Their job is to help with the professionalizing of the force, to prepare for the markers that folks need to accomplish for promotion in the Ranger Regiment and the Army. I don't know if you're aware, but there are different markers for education for Staff Sergeant, Sergeant First Class, and First Sergeant, as well as Sergeant Major in the Ranger Regiment. There's an education requirement. It's not, I do not know in the past few years, I have not seen any waivers on that. It is not a good old boys club, because if you cannot lead by example with that type of college, then the whole program is going to fall down. We are a top-down leadership, lead from the top, do as I do organization, which is awesome and the best way to do business. So data proves. So you've got education counselors, you've got the phalanx office, and then you have the honorary colonel of the regiment General Ken Keene up in Atlanta, who works executive leadership at Emory University. And we've had several Rangers who've been able to utilize that program and others for advanced degrees. And then you have Sergeant Major Mike Hall, and they make the program work across the regiment. 2/3 of all transitioning regiment Rangers last year utilized the program. If you've served in the Ranger Regiment and you depart, because if you're a senior Ranger, you're going to leave at some point or another. It's what we do. We're only, we don't have a general positions. We only have so many sergeants major. We help those folks too. We will help folks. We get calls from folks in the NCR. Hey, I'm no longer in. Can you help me? Like, you deployed 18 times over 15 years. Yes. Because why would we help? It increases our bandwidth. Why would we help? Because that successfully transitioned Ranger, who's now seen a lot of other things outside of the brown fence in the DoD, he's now going to be a Ranger mentor and part of the alumni network. And his greater network that he has by experiencing all of these things is going to be a gift and a blessing to some Ranger right now who's in middle school.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the process works. It feels very organic, right? It sounds like, oh, we do this form, but there's a lot of thought and data behind it. You have got to get the individual Ranger going through transition to ask for help. We have done this before where folks get to briefings and we pour information out of them. The results are not the same. It takes a one-on-one counseling where we figure out, hey, do you have a family? Do you come from a good family? Are you going back to Fayetteville, Arkansas because you want to, or you feel like you have to? Did you know that you could get BAH for going to college full-time, do the Guard and Reserves, and still work? Like, people used to work and go to college. Like, you just don't have to take the BAH and go to college. Like, you work and go to college at night because you're young and set yourself up. And we talk about things in terms of revenue streams. And I'm super excited to share this because it's something that I want the mentors who see this to know what we talk about with the guys. Okay. We have an expectation that when Rangers get out, we really want them to stay in the community and we want them to be successful. And we believe in the American values of hard work. All right. So if I'm a transitioning Ranger, specifically a first term enlister, I can work a job. You can work jobs, right? Depends on your specialty, what you want to do. You can go to college full time and receive BAH for the zip code where you go. You can also go online, and currently this year, I think it's received $1,054 for going full time online. That's a revenue stream. If you look at what 12 credit hours equals by going to school, you will find that at most schools, you will get anywhere from $30 to $60 an hour by sitting in that class. That's a revenue stream. Should that education help you for a job? Most likely. But even if it doesn't, tell me a better part-time job. Yeah. Right? You have a Ranger struggling with bills who says, college isn't for me. No, that's your job. Go collect, $1,000, $2,000, high $2,000, depending on where you're at. That's a revenue stream. All right, so that's two. Then we have Guard and Reserves. Right? People, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, just tell me, when you're going to college full-time, not working, who's paying for your healthcare? Do you have healthcare? Oh, I didn't think about it. I know, that's why you're here, right? So we talk them to those opportunities. It's not so, if they go Guard and Reserves, we might get them back into regiment. No, that is a wonderful contingency plan for a young man who may or may not have a degree, who may or may not be sure what they want to do and are still trying to figure out life, right? They went from 18, they decided that the Army wasn't for them for a career, which is fine. They're now 22, and they're really just an 18-year-old in a 22-year-old's body trying to figure it out. Yeah. So let's give them some contingency plans. And then the fourth COA, and something I wanted to deep dive with folks, because this matters, we've all had different experiences, is the VA. And we do not look at the VA disability as a pocket of money that we're going to take. There's no type of lack of integrity with it. But when we look at revenue streams, or we were looking at a balance sheet, one of those balance sheet items that we already talked about is healthcare. Right? So we want just people to do the process as accurately and completely as possible, because one, you sign an enlistment contract. If you get hurt in the Army, something gets hurt, you're going to get healthcare for it. Just do it, task condition standards, right? Not taking advantage of anything. And we are blessed to have a wonderful relationship with Wounded Warrior Project. They have been a blessing to provide a couple of folks who handle just Ranger claims. It's
Yeah.
been a fantastic kind of evolution of a relationship. Now a Ranger, when they do their initial claim and they go move to wherever, they still have the same point of contact when they have a question. See, before, most of us either did it ourselves or we use somebody local, which is always great to see people face to face. But you then move, and that is no longer your person for a follow-up. And we look at the VA claims process as really being anywhere from retirement or ETS plus 1 year. That means you need to have, it would benefit to have the same person with that same understanding submitting a follow-up claim should you need it. So I'm just excited. I know I took a bunch of time talking about it, but these are the questions we get from everyone. What's Ranger for Life? How does it work? And like I said, it's robust and it works for our Rangers.
Well, and that's hard too, right? Because you're in Columbus, Georgia, but you got to get a message to Savannah and to Fort Lewis, and sometimes things get lost in the, in the message. And I know for some Rangers I've talked to, things have changed. It started several years ago, but it's getting better and it's going to get better in the future. Are there some future goals you guys still have that are in process that you're currently working on?
There's a lot of, so this I've mentioned before that trying to do this process is like kind of bringing a university model of where we have folks that want to join the Ranger Regiment because they see that they know somebody, right? Or they see a movie. We've got a lot of Rangers like yourself putting out great content to tell folks about the great benefits of serving in the Ranger Regiment, right? So we've got an influx of people, right? We got to treat them right while they're there and educate them that you can be a Ranger for life. So we have 1,200 mentors. There's more than that out there, right? I highly encourage people to sign up and go to 3 Ranger Foundation for the Ranger for Life program because there's a distribution of about 5,000 Rangers on that. Every Ranger who's been through the program with us and all the mentors. You need to get that monthly newsletter. It right now, as far as I know, being in terms of current, relevant, Ranger-wide information is the #1 distribution. All right. I'm wearing a Gallant Few shirt. I volunteer with 3 Rangers Foundation. And I just told you the best Ranger place to go, right, is 3 Rangers Foundation to sign up. So we want more mentors. We'll naturally get more mentors because folks are coming through the program and they sign up to be mentors. So we know that's going to happen. But we want to educate folks on those opportunities. You'll also find there's something called mentor meetups. What originally began as meetups when we do these Ranger for Life symposiums, which happen at least once a year at each battalion, by the way, it's where leaders are educated. So even if you stay in and you leave Ranger Regiment, you know that this program exists for you and you know what we're doing and what we're talking about to your Rangers. Ranger Mentor Meetups, there are now people come to 3 Rangers Foundation saying, can I use your platform, messaging platform, to put out that we will be at X, Y, and Z. And I think there'll be like a dozen or 20 Rangers there. And it just becomes a quick little RSVP thing that they can put out to let people in the network know that it's available. There was just one up in New York City that General McChrystal, I think, hosted, which is, thank you, General McChrystal. There was Sergeant Major Daryl Thies realized that we were missing a Ranger plaque at the Army History Museum. They did a little bit of fundraising for it, put it together, and then 3 Ranger Foundation shot out, hey, let's have a mentor meetup after, right? Like, what feels very organic is very organized if we get our Rangers alumni, regiment alumni involved with 3 Rangers Foundation.
Yeah, that's good. That's helpful. It's good to know.
What's out there, right? Rangers don't. Like, we got Sua Sponte Foundation, which is fantastic for 1st Battalion. We got Point to Hawk Foundation, which is great for 2nd Battalion. We have Army Ranger Lead the Way Fund, which is, focused with 375, but it affects everybody in the regiment. It's an alphabet soup. It's confusing. So in terms of and there's a 75th Ranger Regiment Association that is like your traditional alumni association. But when we look at who's kind of like bringing all together in the synergy, of Ranger alumni right now, it's Three Rangers Foundation for sure.
Yeah, and that's good. So if anybody wants to be a part of that mentorship, if you're a prior Ranger and you want to help the younger guys out that aren't out yet or are getting out and they live in your area, then you can look into the Three Rangers Foundation and become a mentor. I mean, it's good to serve others. It's good to help others. And at the end of the day, right, we don't want anybody to go through something that we went through if they don't have to. If they can have a better life, if they can get a career sooner and not have to have those 5 years where they can't pay bills, I think that's a good thing. And that's where we should want to help guys. We don't want people to struggle for no reason.
And what great thing that's happening, Ken, when we get for a long time, we would only get, because it was a new program, we would only get folks who are getting ready to get out. And they're like, oh crap, I better go to Ranger for Life. Now we see people further out. And because of the symposiums, when we don't say that transition's impossible, but we want people to dominate when they get out, right? We want people to thrive. So we have several folks, they'll extend for a year, right? Which might take them from special, because they're like, okay, I'm not going to be an E5 team leader. It's time to get out. But they kind of want to be an E5 team leader. Like they really kind of do it, but they're like, but I kind of really want to get out. And then when they see what it takes to transition well, and you talk about that 4 revenue stream thing, nobody's been able to guess what they are, right? Nobody's gotten more than 3 right, and no one's had a plan for all 4 or good reasons what they were doing or not. Nobody yet. Been doing that for about a year. Okay. So you'll find a lot of these guys, not a lot, but to me, significant is 1 in 5. To me, that's pretty significant. 1 in 5 will extend. And so regiment gets that expertise, that person transitions better, and it becomes a win-win.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing me and my other buddy, Alex, we talk about a lot is just the guys that are transitioning out. They're your guys with your experience. And so you don't want to lose that. You want to try to capitalize on that as long as you can. So why lose it or give up on it? You've spent so much time and resources into them. So the more you can have it, the longer is the better.
100%.
So Tony, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about Rangers for Life and everything that we've talked about. I thank you for all that you do, for your service still after being in the regiment. And like we always say here, Rangers lead the way.
All the way, Ken.